Hey everyone, welcome to this solar eclipse Sidereal Astrology forecast for the solar eclipse on Wednesday and Thursday, April 19th and 20th, 2023. All right, so a solar eclipse, the beginning of the lunar cycle, but really the life path cycle of the year. We have two major eclipse seasons of the year, and this is what we could say is the first one of at least this Gregorian year, but you could even say of this solar year because, well, this solar eclipse is going to be right in between the constellations of Pisces and Aries, which is the ending and beginning of the Zodiac wheel. So fresh new start, new beginnings. It's very important usually to listen to what these new beginnings are, especially during eclipse, new moons or solar eclipses in this case, and slowly build that momentum forward. It is the lowest energy, again, in the yearly zodiac sense, but also in the lunar cycle sense, with this happening right on the cusp between Pisces and Aries. So these two constellations are very different from one another, and so it is in many ways the cusp between integrating the more soul-fulfilling elements of life and now starting to implement things into the more active and ego-driven physical elements of things, right? Pisces has been really, with the sun here in the last lunar cycle here, very much about reconnecting with our soul and our spiritual self, and having a bit more of that receptivity. But now with the transition into Aries, it's much more about the fiery, the active, taking initiative, being proactive types of energies. And so anything that is about transitioning into that, but again, recognizing that it is the lowest energy, so it's just building, coming out of that. But any intentions around reintegrating both our soul and what you might call our egos or our physical selves in unison, in a union, I think is a great way of working with this particular solar eclipse. Now, solar eclipse is still quite close to Jupiter. The last new moon was close to Jupiter as well. And so there is some good things, I think, to be open-minded about and to access a bit of that free-spiritedness with this new cycle forming. But there is a challenging aspect with it. There is this square up to Pluto. Pluto is the very deep energies of life. It's the part of ourselves, really not even a part of ourselves as much as it's the part of life that pulls us to let go of attachments. Pluto has a way of, in a sense, destroying the ego or helping us, release the things we're attached to. And so anything we can do to challenge ourselves to do that, I think is very good way of working with this, and can be actually a very empowering and very transformational solar eclipse. All right, so along with this, a sextile up to Saturn, which is minor. Mercury is going retrograde just after this. We also have Mars in Gemini, the ruler of Aries. So let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the chart for this solar eclipse. So the solar eclipse will be very late on Wednesday the 19th or very early Thursday the 20th of April, depending on where you are in the world. But for all intents and purposes, it will be these 2 days. In fact, we do typically feel the energies of new moons, but specifically eclipses a few days before and a few days after. So it'll be around 12:45 a.m. Eastern time of the Americas, give or take even minutes there because of the latitude that you might be in. We are using topocentric with it, which is the surface of the Earth, and so it is exactly how we would see it visually. But this can, of course, change depending on where you are in the world. But again, for all intents and purposes, the days surrounding Wednesday and Thursday here. All right, and what I did not preface with before is that you may be noticing that maybe some of these signs are different. Maybe you're expecting me to say that the eclipse was just in Aries, for example. And so if you do notice the signs are different from what I'm describing here, like the eclipse or that Jupiter's in Pisces or Uranus is in Aries, anything like this, Mercury's in Aries, the signs will be very different here than in mainstream astrology, and that's because we are using the visible sky. And as you can see, the constellations are different sizes. This is how they are in the visual sky, but this is very different from mainstream astrology, which uses an even 30 degrees for all the signs, and especially with Western astrology does not use the visible sky, they use the seasons. So it does change the signs. And so if you are new to this channel and you do want more information on using this visible sky, definitely check out the link down below for more information on true sidereal astrology. All right, so an eclipse, very important new moon. It's a new moon that happens next to the nodes. And in this case, it's next to the North Node, which is very much about our life path. And in this case, the path in front of us. And so solar eclipses with the North Node tend towards not only new beginnings, but really new paths being paved, new openings forming, a direction to take in the physical world to further our life path. And so it becomes, very much this, new beginning. And especially also because where the solar eclipse is happening right on the cusp of the beginning of the Zodiac, right in between Pisces and Aries here. So really significant for multiple reasons, particularly in the context of starting new energy for multiple reasons, because it's a new moon eclipse, because it's next to the North Node in this particular case, because it's right on the cusp between the ending and beginning of the Zodiac. And so, very significant for what you might call the solar new beginning. And so in this case, very important to listen as we do approach the Wednesday, Thursday time period. I think it's particularly important to complete things, let the energies die down, to do a reset, especially because the last cycle was in Pisces. The sun is finishing Pisces, the ending of the Zodiac. And so it's, been a good time to really do that, to, let the energies die down, but connect more with our soul, more in our inner world and stuff. But coming out of this new beginning certainly is much more fiery energy, and that's the Aries side of it. So, but it takes time. So the key takeaway here is that the eclipse or the new moon is the lowest energy of the cycle, and I would say of the month and even of the year here. So really allow for that and to listen. Even though it is fiery new moon, even though it's about taking action and initiative. Again, it's important to allow it to take time and to see what new arises, and to just all in all be very receptive, especially the days surrounding the eclipse, because there is so much more to life than, of course, our own intentions. And there is, if you believe in a divine process, there's also a lot of things that are outside of our control. So it's important to really listen during these times, and it's really listening to ourselves as well, because it's from within that these energies come, right? So whatever it is we are going to take action towards and initiate in our life, it's very important that it does come from that inner self and that inner knowing. And I think that's very much what this transition is about. Pisces was about connecting to that inner knowing, but now Aries is about how can we implement it, right? How can we initiate it? How can we move it forward? And so, listening to that inner state and being receptive around the solar eclipse, I think, is great. But of course, with that, setting intentions and seeing what putting out there what you do want to integrate and form in this lunar and solar year, I think is a great way of working with it. All right, so that's really what it's about. It is very straightforward in the sense that this is the beginning of the Zodiac. It's the North Node. It's the beginning of the lunar month. And so it is, you could just say that the description of this eclipse is that of endings and beginnings, or connecting to the inner self and the physical self, or the unconscious and the conscious, or the spiritual and the ego, right? And having that union between the two, and integrating the two, and moving that forward. But, just after the eclipse, as we'll start to build some momentum with it, the sun will be transitioning into Aries just a couple days after it. So, we'll be noticing quite soon, if not at the same time as the eclipse, that, just a few days after, there is going to be more themes around taking initiative and being proactive and pursuing the things that we want to pursue in life, our goals, our ambitions, our drives, our motivations, right? And maybe just getting more active in life in general, or more proactive in our lives in general. And so that's a great way of working with it. Now, it's worth mentioning here that Mercury is stationed around the time of the eclipse. Mercury will be going retrograde just after the eclipse here. And so with him being in Aries, it's good to, although slowly move things forward from this, to still be very flexible, especially over the next few weeks while Mercury will be retrograde. Because it's in Aries, which is already about, kind of reconnecting, approaching things a little bit differently when it comes to that fiery side, that proactive side. And so it's already good to kind of be flexible with that. But, that's Mercury in general, in the sense that it's our day-to-day lives, and it's how we're going about things, and it's how we're thinking about things. So it's always good to be flexible during a retrograde anyways. All right, so yeah, a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a situation where things are moving forward, but not fully, in the sense that maybe there's some things to go back and tie up, or approach a little bit differently, have a little bit of flexibility. Things do change a lot during the retrogrades, and so it is good to have that plan, to change the plan, A, B, C, and D plans for being more flexible and adaptive during the new beginnings here. All right, but it is certainly about that fiery side. And now, getting more information from this, we can see that the rulers of Pisces have already been concentrated in Pisces. The traditional ruler of Pisces is Jupiter, who is currently in Pisces, and Neptune modernly is already in Pisces. And so it's really just, has been really pulling that energy more inward. So that's all very straightforward in terms of reintegrating that side of the eclipse. But it's worth mentioning that from the fiery side of things, from the Aries side of the eclipse, from that proactive and initiating side of things, it's very good to perhaps get into the Gemini qualities of things with Mars, the ruler of Aries, the dispositor of Aries in Gemini. And so it's been good these past few weeks for, maybe being a bit proactive with our communications, maybe with learning, information, exchanging with others. And so any intentions around that specifically, and any new beginnings around that, I think is fantastic. If there is any thing you do want to pursue in life that would, result in greater knowledge, learning, information, maybe communication, maybe your practical everyday life, things of this nature, is absolutely fantastic with it. And we'll likely place a large theme around the eclipse being about maybe cerebral or communicative types of things, almost as if the eclipse was in Gemini in many ways. Okay. Now, the challenge with the eclipse is that it is squaring up to Pluto. And so, these squares happen twice a year, so it's nothing very major. It is quite an exact square. So the challenge here is that Pluto has this energy of really the death and the rebirth. Again, the same theme from this eclipse. And in this context, I think it's important that while we're carrying forward this new energy that's very personal, it's about us, our soul, our ego selves, to also be non-attached to that process, to see that, of course, there's so much outside of our control that we can let go of. That's the Pisces side. But Pluto can really show us where we might be, really wanting to control things or have things our way, or maybe we're being a little bit too fiery, a little bit too ego or self-oriented, perhaps. And so we can, feel a bit challenged with that, maybe a bit powerless in many ways, as it might be a bit difficult to pursue some of those personal needs with the square to Pluto, because Pluto will say, no, like if there's too much attachment, if we want it too much, if it's, too much just in that ego realm, then Pluto will, in a sense, kind of block that, or, we create some situations where we'll have to let it go a bit. So it's important to do that intentionally. The squares isn't like, things happening to us. This is ourselves collectively right now doing this. And so it's important to align to ourselves or to what's going on collectively in the context of being more non-attached, right? Being willing to take a step back at times, or, approach things a little bit differently, or let go of some control. Or, if there is some things that maybe we really do want is deeply meaningful to us, again, it's really meaningful to our soul, maybe the square to Pluto is going to really call us to reclaim that power, to really empower ourselves, to face fears, move through any wounds or inhibitions, and things like this. So it really is a great time to allow the old and outworn parts of ourselves to die away, but for the new part of ourselves to emerge that really does have these core needs, not ego needs, but like, our soul or our true selves, the real core, what really is important to us. Pluto has a way of stripping away all the things that really aren't so important to us in life and helps us get to the core of what really is important. And so by doing so, it's extremely empowering. So great time to allow some non-attachment, but also great time to reclaim some power, true power, not false or ego power or safety or security power, but more of what's really important to us, and face some fears and power ourselves to move that energy forward as well. So it's quite strong with the square to Pluto. The sun will be squaring up to Pluto on Thursday as well. So very important, I think, with this eclipse. And then lastly, just a sextile up to Saturn. Nothing major here, but it's nice to see that Saturn, the planet of discipline and responsibility, is in good harmony here. So just worth mentioning that with any new beginnings here, anything that does take time, patience, perseverance, discipline, could go well, or at least good to integrate some of that intentionally since it is available. All right, everyone. So that is the solar eclipse in a nutshell. It is quite straightforward in the sense that there's just so much confluence, so many things pointing towards that same thing. And it really is what I would describe as the ending and new beginning energies, right? Or the connecting to our soul and the physical self energy. So any new intentions around that's great. Again, listen, see what new does arise, slowly build some new momentum as we approach it. Challenge ourselves to be a bit non-attached and reclaim some of that personal power, true power, with the square to Pluto. Be open-minded. Again, there's that conjunction to Jupiter, so certainly some opportunities or some inspiration, some open-mindedness certainly available. And a lot of it's in the context of perhaps learning or communication or practical lives in some way. But with that stuff, with Mercury retrograde, just being a bit flexible, right? Correspondence, information, our day-to-day lives, things can change during the Mercury retrograde, so good to be flexible. And just a little bit of support there from responsible Saturn. All right, so everyone, have a fantastic solar eclipse. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter where you do get these videos released first before YouTube and extra content not normally released on YouTube. If you're not yet signed up, definitely sign up down below for that. But have a great one, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.